The night shift at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station was usually quiet. Most operators spent their time watching endless streams of data scroll across their screens, looking for anything unusual in the vast emptiness of space. But tonight was different. "Sir, you need to see this." Tom's voice cracked with excitement as he called his supervisor over. The young operator's fingers flew across the keyboard, bringing up a series of energy readings from the outer edges of the Kuiper belt. The numbers made no sense. They showed energy patterns that shouldn't exist in that region of space. Within an hour, every major space agency on Earth was awake and watching. Something massive was out there, and it wasn't natural. The United Earth Ship Mercy, humanity's most advanced rescue vessel, received its emergency orders at 300 hours. Captain James stood on the bridge, his experienced eyes scanning the mission briefing. In his 20 years of space rescue operations, he had never seen anything like this. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump," his voice echoed through the ship's speakers. "We have an unknown situation at the edge of the solar system. This is not a drill." The UES Mercy was beautiful in its simplicity. Unlike the sleek, all-digital ships that had become popular, she maintained backup analog systems for everything. Some called it outdated, but Captain James knew better. In space, simple solutions often meant survival. The jump took them to the outer edges of the Kuiper belt. As they emerged from jump space, the crew's collective gasp filled the bridge. Before them floated a fleet of ships unlike anything humans had ever seen. 50 massive vessels, each one at least 3 times the size of Earth's largest space carrier, hung motionless in space. They seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy that rippled across their hulls. "Energy readings are off the charts, Captain," reported the science officer. "They appear to be trapped in some kind of quantum disturbance. And, sir, we're picking up life signs. Thousands of them." Captain James straightened his uniform. First contact with an alien species, and it was happening during a rescue operation. "Open all frequencies," he ordered. "Let's introduce ourselves." The communications officer sent out the standard greeting package, a series of mathematical sequences followed by simple visual representations of peaceful intent. For 10 long minutes they waited. The response, when it came, was unexpected. A holographic image appeared on the bridge, showing a tall, graceful being with features that seemed to shift like starlight on water. When it spoke, the universal translator struggled for a moment before converting the musical tones into English. "I am Admiral Blue of the Starborn Fleet," the being said. "We require assistance." The admission seemed to cause physical pain to the proud alien. Captain James stepped forward. "I am Captain James of the UES Mercy, a rescue vessel from Earth. We stand ready to help. Can you tell us what happened?" The alien admiral's form flickered. "We were traveling through this sector, fleeing from." There was a pause. "Hostile forces. Our engines activated some kind of quantum anomaly. Our technology, it no longer functions properly. We are trapped, and our power reserves grow low." The science officer's console beeped urgently. "Captain, the quantum field is growing stronger. At this rate, those ships will begin breaking apart in less than 72 hours. Captain James nodded, his mind already working on solutions. The alien's advanced technology was useless, but maybe that was exactly why the Mercy, with her backup mechanical systems and primitive rescue equipment, was the perfect ship for this job. "Admiral Blue," he said, "we may not have the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but we have experience with rescue operations in extreme conditions. With your permission, I'd like to send over our initial rescue plan." The alien's shifting features registered surprise at the quick response. "You believe you can help us? With your level of technology?" Sometimes, Captain James allowed himself a small smile. The simplest solutions are the best ones. Humanity has learned that lesson many times in space. Admiral Blue studied him for a long moment. Finally, the alien nodded. "We accept your assistance, Captain James of Earth. We have little choice. But know that if you can indeed save my fleet, you will have the gratitude of a species that has traveled the stars for 10,000 years." As the hologram faded, Captain James turned to his crew. "Well," he said, "let's show our new friends what humanity can do. Begin rescue operations." The UES Mercy's main conference room had never held such an unusual meeting. Captain James sat at one end of the table, while a hologram of Admiral Blue flickered at the other. Between them, Engineer Robert spread out old-fashioned paper drawings of his rescue plan. "The quantum storm is like nothing we've ever seen," Robert explained, pointing to his sketches. "It's disrupting all advanced electronic systems, but our simple mechanical equipment still works perfectly." Admiral Blue's shifting form showed what humans were beginning to recognize as confusion. "You suggest using metal cables, like primitive fishing lines." "Exactly," Robert smiled, holding up a sample of the Mercy's rescue cable. "These aren't ordinary cables. They're reinforced with titanium and carbon fibers. We use them to pull damaged ships through jump space. With some modifications, they should work here too." The alien admiral's colors darkened. "Our ships weigh thousands of tons. Your cables would snap like thread." Before Robert could respond, alarms blared through both ships. A young human officer burst into the room. "Captain, one of the alien ships is losing power. Their life support systems are failing." The hologram of Admiral Blue flickered wildly. "The Green Star. There are 400 of my people on that ship." Captain James stood up. "We don't have time for debates anymore. Robert, prepare the cables. Admiral, we need your permission to attempt a rescue." Now, for 3 long seconds, the alien leader was silent. Then, "Proceed, Captain. We have no choice." The next hour was organized chaos. The Mercy moved carefully through the quantum storm, its analog systems humming steadily while more advanced ships would have been blind. Robert directed his team to attach the massive rescue cables to the failing alien ship. "Their hull is unlike anything I've ever seen," Robert reported over the comm. "But these attachment points look solid. We're ready to pull, Captain." Captain James watched the tension readings on the mechanical gauges. In this storm, they were the only instruments he could trust. "All hands, brace for rescue operation. Engineering, begin retraction sequence." The massive winches on the Mercy groaned as they began to pull. The cables went tight, glowing slightly from the strain. On the screens, they could see the alien ship shuddering. "It's not enough," Admiral Blue's hologram said. "The storm is too strong." "Then we'll be stronger," Robert's voice came over the comm. "Captain, permission to try something crazy." "Granted. We're going to use the storm against itself," Robert explained quickly. "The quantum field creates waves. If we time our pulls with those waves, we might be able to surf the ship out of there." Admiral Blue's form rippled. "That is primitive, yet fascinating." They watched as Robert's team adjusted their pulling rhythm. Like sailors of old catching the wind, they timed each pull with the quantum waves. Slowly, the massive alien ship began to move. "It's working," someone shouted. For 30 tense minutes, they pulled and released, rode the quantum waves, and slowly dragged the Green Star to safety. When the ship finally cleared the storm's edge, cheers erupted on both human and alien vessels. Admiral Blue's hologram showed colors they hadn't seen before. "Incredible. You saved them using simple physics. And what did you call it?" "Surfing. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways," Captain James said. "Now, shall we plan how to save the rest of your fleet?" The alien admiral's form stabilized, showing what seemed to be determination. "My people have traveled the stars for millennia. We pride ourselves on our advanced technology. Yet here we are, being rescued by a species that still uses metal cables and manual labor." There was a pause. "Perhaps we have forgotten something important in our rush to advance." "Every tool has its purpose," Robert said, already sketching new ideas, "even the simplest ones." "Indeed," Admiral Blue agreed. "Very well. Let us work together." But we must hurry. The storm grows stronger, and we have 49 ships left to save. Captain James looked at the massive alien fleet, still trapped in the shimmering quantum storm. This would be the biggest rescue operation in human history. But as he watched his crew working seamlessly with their new alien allies, he knew they would succeed. They had to. The lives of thousands depended on it. The success with the Green Star had changed everything. Within hours, the UES Mercy's hangar bay became an unusual workshop where humans and Starborn worked side by side. Engineer Robert watched with pride as his team taught the alien engineers how to modify the rescue cables. "Your species is full of surprises," said Bright, the Starborn's chief engineer. Unlike Admiral Blue's shifting colors, Bright's form glowed with a constant golden light. These modifications are both simple and brilliant. Robert smiled as he adjusted a mechanical winch. Sometimes the best solutions are the simple ones. How are your people adapting to our backup systems? Before Bright could answer, the entire hangar shook. Emergency lights flashed, and a deep alarm echoed through the ship. Multiple hull breaches detected on the Star Seeker. A voice announced over the intercom. "The quantum storm is tearing it apart." Captain James's voice followed immediately. "All rescue teams to stations. This is not a drill." The Star Seeker has less than 30 minutes before total structural failure. The workshop erupted into action. Humans and Starborn rushed to their positions, all previous hesitation forgotten in the face of emergency. Robert grabbed his toolkit and ran for the rescue pods. "The Star Seeker is one of our largest ships," Bright said, floating alongside him. "It carries our main medical facilities. Over 2,000 of my people are aboard." They'd reached the pod bay just as Admiral Blue's hologram appeared. "Captain James, this is madness. The storm is too intense in that sector. You'll lose your ship." "We might," James replied calmly, "but we won't lose those people." "Robert, what's your plan?" Robert spread out a quick diagram on his tablet. "The storm's too strong for a direct approach. But if we launch multiple rescue pods with cable launchers, we can create a web around the Star Seeker, like a spider web catching a falling object." The Starborn engineers stared at the simple drawing. Bright's glow pulsed with surprise. "You want to catch a ship that weighs millions of tons with a web?" "Yes," Robert said, already climbing into his pod. "Because we'll use the storm's own energy to our advantage. Each cable will be positioned to redirect the quantum forces, like a river flowing around rocks." Admiral Blue's hologram flickered uncertainly. "This plan, it relies entirely on manual control, on human reflexes and instincts." "Exactly," Captain James said. "And that's why it will work. The storm disrupts advanced computers, but it can't disrupt human judgment. Robert, you have a go." The rescue pods launched into the chaos. Through the viewport, Robert could see the massive Star Seeker. Its beautiful hull was cracking under the quantum forces, streams of emergency containment fields barely holding it together. "All pods, report in," Robert called over the radio. One by one, 8 human pilots responded. "Remember your training. Feel the storm's rhythm. Launch cables on my mark." The pods moved into position, fighting against the quantum waves. Robert watched his mechanical gauges, ignoring the flickering electronic displays. 3, 2, 1, mark. 16 cables shot out, glowing with reinforced energy. They crossed through space in a complex pattern, forming a giant web around the failing ship. The storm's energy crackled along the cables, but they held. "First phase complete," Robert reported, beginning synchronized tensioning. What followed was a dance of physics and human skill. Each pilot adjusted their cables by feel, working together to distribute the massive ship's weight. Slowly, carefully, they began to pull the Star Seeker from the storm's grasp. "It's working." Bright's voice was filled with wonder. "The web is actually working." For 20 tense minutes, they fought against the quantum forces. Metal groaned, cables stretched, but did not break. Finally, with one last coordinated pull, they dragged the Star Seeker to safety. As cheers filled the radio channel, Robert saw Admiral Blue's hologram appear in his pod. The alien leader's colors swirled with complex emotions. "I owe you an apology," Blue said. "I called your methods primitive. I was wrong. What I witnessed today was not primitive. It was elegant. Perhaps my people have forgotten that not all advancement means more complexity." Robert wiped sweat from his forehead. "Thank you, Admiral. But we're not done yet. We still have most of your fleet to save, and I have some new ideas to discuss." "Indeed," Blue agreed. "And this time, my engineers will listen without prejudice. We have much to learn from Earth's rescuers." The quantum storm grew stronger with each passing hour. On the UES Mercy's bridge, Captain James watched the mechanical storm gauges climb steadily higher. They had rescued 12 ships so far, but 38 remained trapped, and time was running out. "The storm's energy has increased by 40%, reported the science officer, reading from an old-style pressure gauge. "At this rate, we have less than 24 hours before it reaches critical levels." Admiral Blue's hologram appeared, its colors dark with concern. "Captain, we're detecting structural weaknesses in multiple ships now. The Morning Light and the Star Dancer are showing the worst damage. We need to work faster," James said, studying the rescue maps spread out on his paper chart. "Robert, what's the status of the new rescue equipment?" Engineer Robert looked up from where he and Bright were modifying rescue cables. "We've doubled our capacity by combining human winch systems with starborne energy converters. The aliens may have advanced technology, but they never thought to use it this way." Bright's golden form pulsed with agreement. "We've modified 10 more rescue pods with the new hybrid systems. The quantum storm affects them less now that we're using mechanical controls with our power sources." A violent shudder ran through the ship. Warning bells rang, not electronic alarms, but actual metal bells that Robert had installed for just this situation. "Report," James called out. "The storm's changing, sir." The science officer gripped his console as another shudder hit. "It's forming some kind of quantum vortex. The forces are much stronger than anything we've seen before." Through the viewports, they could see it. The space around the trapped alien ships was twisting, ribbons of quantum energy forming a massive spiral. The trapped ships groaned under the new pressures. "Launch all rescue pods," James ordered. "We'll take advantage of the vortex pattern. Robert, Bright, you lead the operation." The launch bay became organized chaos as human and alien crews boarded their pods. Robert checked his mechanical compass. Useless in normal space, but vital in the quantum storm where normal navigation failed. "Remember your training," he called over the radio. "Work in pairs, one human, one starborn. Feel the rhythm of the storm and don't fight it directly." 20 pods launched into the chaos. The storm's energy crackled around them, but the hybrid systems held steady. Robert watched his gauges as they approached the first target, the Morning Light. "The vortex is actually helping us," Bright's voice came over the radio. "Its spiral pattern. If we time this right, we can use its rotation to slingshot the ships out." Robert grinned. Sometimes the best ideas came in the worst situations. "All pods, form up in spiral formation. We're going to ride this quantum wave." What followed was the most daring rescue operation in human history. The pods positioned themselves in a spiral pattern matching the vortex. As the quantum energy spun, they fired their cables in sequence, creating a rotating web of energy and metal. "Now," Robert called. The pods fired their hybrid engines together, using the storm's own rotation to generate massive pulling force. The Morning Light shuddered, then began to move. "It's working." Bright's glow pulsed with excitement. "The quantum forces are amplifying our pull." Ship after ship was pulled free, each rescue faster than the last as the crews perfected their timing. The Star Dancer, the Light Seeker, the Dawn's Hope. One by one, they were dragged to safety. But the storm was growing stronger. Cable after cable snapped under the strain. 2 rescue pods lost power and had to be towed back. The crews were exhausting themselves, but they couldn't stop. 6 more ships free, Robert reported back to the Mercy. But the storm, he didn't need to finish. They could all see it. The quantum vortex was tightening, its energy readings going off the charts. The remaining ships were being pulled deeper into its grip. Captain James's voice came over the radio, steady as always. All pods, return to the Mercy. We need to regroup and modify our strategy. As they headed back, Robert looked at the ships they'd saved, and the ones still trapped. They'd achieved the impossible today, but would it be enough? The storm was only getting stronger, and they were running out of both time and options. The real test was still to come. The UES Mercy's rescue room was silent as Captain James studied the latest readings. 32 ships saved, but the remaining 18 were now trapped in the heart of the quantum vortex. The storm had become a swirling monster of energy, destroying everything it touched. Our cables can't handle the forces anymore, Robert reported, showing the remains of a broken cable. Its metal strands were twisted and melted. The quantum energy is too strong. Admiral Blue's hologram flickered more than usual, a sign of the growing interference. Perhaps we should accept that we cannot save them all. We have already rescued more than I thought possible. The words hung heavy in the air. 2,000 Starborn were still trapped on those ships. Captain James looked at his crew, seeing the exhaustion on their faces. They had worked for 36 hours straight, pushing themselves and their equipment to the limit. Then the emergency bells rang. Captain, the science officer's voice was tight with fear. The vortex is collapsing. Estimate total implosion in 20 minutes. None of the trapped ships will survive. James stood up straight. Robert, what if we used a ship as a shield? Something big enough to split the vortex. The engineer's eyes widened as he understood. The Mercy, she's built stronger than most ships. Her analog systems might survive the quantum forces. But, sir, at that range, the damage would be fatal to the ship, James finished. I know. Admiral Blue's colors swirled in shock. You would sacrifice your vessel, your only way home. We're a rescue ship, James said simply. This is what we do. He pressed the ship-wide comm button. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for emergency maneuvers. All non-essential personnel to escape pods. The bridge crew stayed at their stations, even as other crew members evacuated. Robert worked quickly, rerouting all power to the shields and structural supports. If we're going to do this, we need to hit the vortex at exactly the right angle, like splitting a log with an axe. I'm staying on board, Bright announced, his golden form steady. My energy might help strengthen your shields. James nodded. Admiral, get your rescue ships ready. When we split the vortex, you'll have seconds to pull your people out. The Mercy turned toward the quantum storm, her engines humming. Through the viewports, they could see the massive vortex, now a swirling tornado of deadly energy. The trapped starborn ships were being crushed in its grip. All hands, brace for impact, James called. Helm, take us in. Full power. The Mercy accelerated straight toward the heart of the storm. The ship shuddered as quantum forces battered her hull. Warning bells rang throughout the ship as systems began to fail. Hull integrity at 60%. Robert shouted over the noise. 50%. 40%. Bright's energy merged with the ship's shields, creating a glowing barrier around the Mercy. But even that was barely enough against the storm's fury. 10 seconds to impact. The helm officer gripped his manual controls tightly. 5 seconds. Now, James ordered. The Mercy struck the vortex like a spear, her reinforced hull driving deep into the quantum energy. Alarm screamed as the ship's frame twisted under impossible forces. But she held together. It's working. Robert's voice was barely audible over the chaos. The vortex is splitting. Through the cracking viewports, They could see the quantum storm tear apart around them. The starborn rescue ships darted into the gap, firing their cables at the trapped vessels. "Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. Someone shouted. "We can't take much more." "Hold position," James ordered. The Mercy groaned like a dying animal, but stayed in place, keeping the vortex split open. One by one, the trapped ships were pulled to safety. The Mercy's hull was peeling apart, her decks exposed to space, but she didn't move until the last ship was clear. All ships extracted. Admiral Blue's voice crackled through failing speakers. "Captain James, get your ship out of there." But as the helm officer tried to turn the ship, nothing happened. The engines were dead, the controls frozen. The Mercy was trapped in the collapsing vortex. Admiral Blue's hologram watched in horror as the quantum storm began to close in around the human ship that had saved his entire fleet. The UES Mercy hung trapped in the quantum vortex, her hull breaking apart under the immense forces. On what remained of the bridge, Captain James and his crew worked desperately at their stations, trying to find a way out. "Main power is gone," Robert reported, working by the light of emergency chemical lamps. "Backup generators are dead. We're running on battery power, and that won't last long." Bright's golden form flickered weakly as he maintained what was left of the shields. "My energy alone cannot hold back the storm much longer." Through the cracked viewports, they could see the rescued starborn ships safely beyond the storm's reach. At least their sacrifice would mean something. 2,000 lives saved. Then Admiral Blue's voice crackled through a half-working speaker. "Captain James, your ship saved my people. Now let us return the favor." The quantum storm lit up with new energy as the starborn fleet moved into position around the vortex. Each ship began to glow with a strange light. "What are they doing?" James asked as the light grew brighter. Bright's form pulsed with surprise. "They're charging their quantum cores. All of them together. But that could destroy their ships." Admiral Blue's voice came through stronger. "The Starborn have traveled space for 10,000 years. In all that time, we never found another species willing to sacrifice everything to save strangers. We will not let that sacrifice stand alone." The Starborn ships fired beams of pure energy into the vortex. The quantum storm writhed as new forces fought against it. But it wasn't enough. "The storm's too strong," Robert shouted. "Even their energy can't break it." Then a new voice came over the radio. "UES Mercy, this is Captain Wilson of the Earth Fleet. Help has arrived." Through the chaos of the storm, they saw them. 50 Earth rescue ships, led by the UES Hope, burning hard toward their position. Each ship trailed multiple rescue cables. "Looks like you could use a hand," Wilson said. "We brought every cable we could find. Hope you don't mind a little old-fashioned pulling." James laughed despite their situation. "Wilson, you old space dog, your timing is perfect." The Earth fleet spread out, forming the circle opposite the starborn ships. Hundreds of cables shot out, attaching to the Mercy's broken hull. The impossible was about to be attempted. 2 fleets, using completely different technologies, working together to save one ship. "All ships, ready power," Admiral Blue called. "All cables, maximum tension," Wilson responded. "Now," they called together. The space around the Mercy exploded with energy and motion. The starborn ships fired their quantum beams, disrupting the storm's pattern. The Earth ships pulled with everything they had, their cables glowing with the strain. On the Mercy's bridge, Robert's eyes went wide. "They're creating a resonance pattern. The quantum beams and the cable tension. They're matching the storm's frequency and canceling it out," Bright finished, his glow brightening with understanding. The quantum vortex began to lose its shape, its energy dispersing under the combined assault. The Mercy shuddered as the forces holding her weakened. "Hull integrity critical," someone shouted. "We're breaking up. Hold together, old girl," James whispered to his ship. "Just a little longer." With a final surge of power from both fleets, the vortex collapsed. The Mercy shot backward, pulled by 100 cables as the starborn ship's energy pushed her to safety. They were clear. Cheers erupted over every radio channel. Human and alien voices mixed together in celebration. The Mercy was badly damaged, but she was alive. More importantly, her crew was alive. "I never thought I'd see anything like this," Wilson said, his voice full of wonder. "Humans and starborn, working together, using both our strengths." Admiral Blue's hologram appeared on what was left of the bridge, its colors bright with emotion. "Together, we achieved what neither of us could do alone. Perhaps this is the beginning of something greater than a rescue." Captain James looked at his battered but proud crew, humans and starborn working side by side. "I think it already is." As rescue shuttles approached to evacuate the Mercy's crew, James took one last look at his ship. She was broken, but she had done her job. She had brought two civilizations together and saved thousands of lives. Not bad for a ship that some had called primitive. 1 month after the quantum storm rescue, Earth's largest space station had never looked more alive. Starborn ships floated alongside human vessels, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight. The station's main hall was packed with both species for a ceremony unlike any in human history. Captain James stood at the podium, his dress uniform freshly pressed. The scars on his face from the rescue had healed, but he still walked with a slight limp. Behind him, a large window showed the UES Mercy in dry dock, undergoing repairs. Teams of human and starborn engineers worked together, sharing knowledge as they rebuilt the brave ship. 1 month ago, James began, addressing the mixed crowd. "We faced an impossible situation. 50 ships trapped in a quantum storm, thousands of lives at risk. But we discovered something more valuable than any rescue technique. We learned that the greatest power in space isn't our technology or our energy cores. It's our ability to work together." Admiral Blue floated forward, their form more stable than ever after learning to adjust to Earth's atmosphere. "The Starborn Council has made a historic decision," they announced. "For 10,000 years, we have traveled the stars alone, believing our advanced technology made us superior. The humans proved us wrong. They showed us that true advancement comes not from isolation, but from cooperation." Bright, now Earth's first starborn technical advisor, glowed with approval. Next to him, Robert grinned. They had spent the past month combining human mechanical systems with starborn energy technology, creating new devices that worked better than either one alone. "Therefore," Admiral Blue continued, "we officially propose the creation of the Joint Space Rescue Force, a fleet of ships staffed by both humans and starborn, ready to help any vessel in need, using both our technologies." The crowd erupted in cheers. James watched as human and starborn crew members celebrated together. Just a month ago, they had been strangers. Now many have become close friends, learning from each other's differences. "The first ship of this new fleet," James announced, "will be the rebuilt UES Mercy. Her new systems will combine the best of both our worlds, human mechanical ingenuity and starborn energy manipulation. She will be a symbol of what we can achieve together." Through the window, they could see the Mercy's new hull taking shape. The classic rescue ship now bore marks of both civilizations, Earth's sturdy construction enhanced by flowing lines of starborn energy conduits. "But more than technology," James continued, "this alliance represents something greater. It shows that no matter how advanced we become, we must never forget the simple truths, that sometimes the old ways still work best, that every technology has its place, and that the greatest strength comes from working together." Admiral Blue's colors shifted in what humans now recognized as deep emotion. "Captain James speaks truth. My people have gained more than rescue from this encounter. We have gained perspective. We have gained friends. And perhaps most importantly, we have gained humility." The ceremony concluded with the signing of the Alliance Treaty. As the crowds mingled afterward, Robert and Bryce showed off their latest invention, a rescue cable infused with starborn energy, stronger than anything either civilization had created alone. "Just think, Robert said, holding up the cable. "A month ago, we were strangers who couldn't even communicate. Now look at us." Indeed, Bright's glow pulsed warmly. "My people always thought we had reached the peak of advancement. You humans showed us that there is always more to learn if we are willing to learn it." Captain James stood by the window, watching the activity in space. Workers in human spacesuits moved alongside floating Starborn, both species working to make the Mercy stronger than ever. Other ships were being modified too, combining the best aspects of both civilizations' technology. Admiral Blue floated up beside him. "You know, Captain, when we first detected your rescue ship approaching, we thought you couldn't possibly help us. We were trapped by forces your science couldn't even measure, yet you did the impossible." James smiled. "Not impossible, Admiral. Just difficult. And nothing is too difficult when we work together." As if to emphasize his words, the Mercy's new systems powered up for the first time. Lines of starborn energy flowed through human-built conduits, creating something entirely new. Something better. A new age of space rescue had begun.